It is time for a new tier list video with the FALINKS release, and this time I will make both of my tier lists at the same time instead of one after another. I think a lot of people who watch my tier list videos are always a bit confused on, like, if they skip towards the end, they just see the central area tier list and I get like comments, why is this Pokemon only here? Why is this Pokemon only here? So this time I will make both at the same time for top and bot path and for central area. And why? It is just important to rank these Pokemon separately by role or by path, because if I put like Cinderace, for example, into B tier, someone is like, oh, Cinderace is B tier, but he doesn't know where to go with it, right? How is he supposed to know this is only for central area? And in top and bot path, it's definitely much worse than a B tier. And this is why I still have two tier lists. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy, making both at the same time. So if I have Cinderace, I'm ranking it at top and bot path first, and then in central area. So then let's begin. I'm just going to start with Cinderace. In top and bot path, still goes into E tier. Terrible early game, terrible last hitting, and needs a lot of experience, which you just don't get on top or bot path. For central area, probably around C. I think that might be, I think it's right in the middle. Like, it's not terribly either, but it's nothing amazing. A bit too squishy, and in general, basic attack Pokemon just don't really perform well right now that are ranged. Garchomp in a path. I think to me, Garchomp's always very solid of a, top and bot path Pokemon, and the same in central area. I think it's just very solid, very average. It can sometimes have insane pop-off games, sometimes can feel a bit weak, depending on what opponents have, but definitely, if you want to play Garchomp, it's definitely Pokemon to look out for. Gengar, I mean, I still put it into D tier in, top and bot path, just because it has a bit of comeback potential. With its Unite move, you can always snipe the enemy carry, as I like to say, but it's really nothing all too amazing. And for central area as well, like Gengar currently, it's just not really it. Can't really say it is. I think it's fair to put it next to, Cinderace. Next up, we have Cramorant, which Cramorant is always a solid Pokemon, but I do think that Dive and Air Slash is just better in central area. I feel like you need a bit more experience than usual to really make damage with the Split happen. So, top bot path, B tier, and in central area, actually going to put into A. I think Cramorant with Air Slash and Dive is still such a strong Pokemon that just no one wants to play. Ninetales has fallen off a bit, but I think B tier is still fair. It's just very annoying Pokemon. It does a lot of damage, has a lot of CC. For central area, I don't think it's E tier. I think Veil and Gleam can actually be quite a good central area build, but still nothing I can necessarily recommend. Tough also goes into a, solid B tier, I would say. Decently strong Pokemon. Very annoying to deal with, and its Unite move also has good impact, very good laning phase. And central area, of course, we're going to skip those. I'm just going to even put them into the tier list, of course, central area, as they don't go there. Machamp, I can't really recommend Machamp currently, I would say. It just takes too long to really start going. It's just how it is. It just takes way too long before it really gets to its power level. C in this one, I kind of changed now. I don't have A+ or B+ anymore. So C is kind of the middle. So C is still Pokemon you can play, definitely carry on and perform, but some games it will be quite the struggle. While B are always fine picks, A and S are pretty much the meta, and then D is borderline unplayable, and F or E is pretty much unplayable, right? That's kind of how it's being ranked right now. And in central area, I really cannot recommend Machamp whatsoever. Absol Path doesn't feel great right now, I have to say. Much better in central area. I think in central area, it's a very solid B tier, but in a path, I think, because Pursuit being its best build, Pursuit is just not a good path build, I have to say it. Like, top and bot path, Pursuit. Night Slash is pretty good in path, but Night Slash is just currently much weaker, so no point in playing it. Slowbro, this Pokemon is just always good. Like, doesn't matter what. Maybe S tier is a bit too high, but definitely A when it comes to, top and bot path. One of the strongest defender in the entire game. Mr. Mime, I think, is very underrated. I think Mr. Mime, again, as always, is just a very solid Pokemon. Very good last hitting, very good team fighting. Can run a lot of different builds as well to can adjust towards your, your team and the enemy team. But just because it's so strong early game and can get so many last hits, you can snowball games quite hard, especially if you have a good lane partner on top of it. Venusaur. Venusaur's win rate currently is quite bad. And, Paladin's Giga Drain, though, is a great counter to FALINKS. But besides that, I feel like I can't put it much higher than maybe this right now. Actually, I think Ninetales also might actually be too high. I think Ninetales has to go into down here. If I put Venusaur into C tier, I think I also have to put Venusaur into that run right there. And in central area, I think Venusaur definitely is a bit better in central area, as you just get so much more experience in, and it also allows Paladins to just be better. And again, good FALINKS counter. If they miss a FALINKS, you can go Paladins, Giga Drain, Venusaur, and absolutely stomp the entire game. Lucario, just very solid. Again, B just is a solid Pokemon, and Lucario is definitely one of those. In Central Area, I can't recommend. I know I've played Lucario in Central Area. I made a video about it for fun, just because, you know, I was a bit bored. You're gonna try out different things. And it can definitely carry in Central Area, but would I necessarily recommend it? No. Talonflame, I think, is one of the better lane speedsters. Goes into C tier, goes into the tier that is like, yeah, these Pokemon can be played and can definitely be quite fine. And probably in Central, maybe it goes even into A. I think Talonflame is actually quite good and maybe deserve a higher spot. But at the end, I think B tier is probably more fair. I think B tier fits. Eldegoss has dropped after the nerfs from S to A tier, I would say. Just a tiny bit weaker, but honestly, it doesn't really matter all too much. I have to say it. Greninja joins Cinderace in top and bot path for the same reasons, and in Central Area, I think it's actually the same as well. It's just basic attack Pokemon in general, or like these physical attacker, just aren't really it right now. None of them really are like, wow, really want to play this. They just go down so fast. Like Greninja it just goes down way too fast. That's just how it is. And, you know, sadly. Crustle goes into A tier still for top and bot path, even after the nerfs. It got a change on its Unite move last patch, which actually is kind of a nerf, because sometimes you got Kenzie, you got the shield. So, yeah, but Cross is still pretty good. Snorlax, solid C tier defender, I would say. Definitely. Just a fine one. Nothing too game-changing though, of course. Charizard, I mean, I hate Charizard in Path is just so bad. I know you get level 7, and it's kind of similar to Gengar, but man, do I hate my life whenever I have a Charizard in my lane. But I think because of level 7, Fine Evolution, because of its Unite move similar to Gengar, I think it's probably D tier, and probably better than Cinderace or Greninja, at least just because it has more, like, solo potential compared to those two. But it really does, like, last hitting. Like, it has absolutely no last hitting whatsoever. In Central Area, I think it's definitely better. I think Charizard is actually quite decent there. I'm going to put into A tier for Central Area. Pikachu. I think it's just, yeah, Pikachu goes into B tier for top and a bot path. And for Central Area, I mean, there's lately, if you watch my DSC channel, which you of course should, right? Check out CrisHeroes DSC for more Unite content. Lately, I've been getting so many Central Area Pikachus in my games, and I don't know where they come from. They always have very bizarre builds as well, and they just don't stop. It is wild lately. Let me know in the comments as well if you lately gotten a lot of jungle Pikachus. I don't know where they come from. I never even recommended anyone to play this either, so you can't blame me for this one. Zeraora, just very mid. In general, just nothing too crazy. Even in Central Area, I mean, I think D is probably a bit too harsh. But C. I mean, C, again, these are definitely Pokemon you can play in Central Area and say carry on. Like, it's not griefing picking these Pokemon, right? I want to make it clear that C doesn't mean terrible. C doesn't mean griefing. Again, D and E, D is kind of borderline griefing, and E is probably griefing. Or like just absolutely terrible, or like terrible, something you shouldn't be doing. C is still, this is fine to pick. If you're good at it, you can carry games definitely with it. I hope that's understandable. Try to make it very clear. Got one path. I think just a solid C tier, and in Central Area probably a solid B, maybe even A. I think Gardevoir Central Area is definitely the better choice currently, as you just get to level 9 much faster and you can also spam many more Unite moves. But its laning phase is not too bad, right? Like top and bot path Gardevoir definitely something you can play as well. Next up is Blissey. I mean, supports are just so strong in general. Easily goes into A tier. Of course, doesn't jungle. Blastoise, the first S tier Pokemon when it comes to top and bot path. Blastoise, if you play draft right now, definitely should be probably the biggest ban in the entire game. Yeah, Blastoise should always be banned, definitely. For Central Area, it's actually not too bad. Like, Central Area Blastoise is definitely something you can play, but can I recommend it? Not really. I'm just not going to even put it on there. But if your team, if your team doesn't have a defender, and they just pick all like squishy attacker or something, you can definitely play Central Area Blastoise and actually have a lot of success with it. Mamoswine, I think C is fair for Mamoswine. Doesn't go to Central Area. Similar to Snorlax, I feel like even a bit better than Snorlax, but both are doing a bit of different things. But in the end, actually, they kind of do the same thing, right? Heavy Slam Yawn and Earthquake Ice Fang are kind of the same thing, right? They're kind of the same thing, but Snorlax has a bit of bad last hitting, while Mamoswine has more KO pressure in early game. Sylveon goes to me into A. I think Hyper Voice Sylveon is super strong and definitely something you should be playing. And for Central Area, Mystic Fire as well rises up there when it comes to Central Area, and Hyper Voice in Central Area is also definitely pretty good. Greedent, I think people are very sleeping on Greedent, but I don't want to put it higher than C tier. I feel like it's maybe B, maybe C. Bullet Seed and Stuff Cheek's not too bad right now. Covert Beige is also alright. It's a fine Pokemon. I think C is definitely okay. Decidueye, again, just always put it a bit higher than Cinderace Greninja, just because on level 7 it has so much more value than all those two, with Spirit Checker just being a very powerful move. So I'm just going to put into D. And for Central Area, I put them definitely higher than Cinderace and Greninja. Decidueye goes into B tier for me, into Central Area. Then we have Serena. Some people might be surprised by this, but I think Serena is actually quite good. This is probably a bit of personal bias. I kind of want to put Serena into A tier. It's also pretty good into FALINKS now. The only problem is that Serena's top and bot path early game can sometimes be a bit too harsh, so you can like kind of lose games a bit too early. So Serena, I think, is very good. It's just very volatile to play, and I think that's the issue that kind of holds it back from being maybe A or S tier. I do think it could be A. It's somewhere between A and B. If I was very biased right now, I would put it into A tier, but I think B tier is probably a bit more fair towards Serena, just because getting to level 6 can be a big struggle. For Central Area, Serena relies too much on stacks. It needs attack weight, and if it doesn't have attack weight stacks, it feels quite bad, and Central Areas can be sometimes quite difficult to get. It's something you can play, but nothing I would necessarily recommend either. Dragon Knight and Path, absolutely dreadful, needs level 8. Should never be played. While in Central Area, definitely A or even S tier maybe. Maybe Dragon Knight's even S tier, but now probably, honestly, probably S tier actually. People might not agree with this, but Dragon Knight, the Japan shows us as well how good this Pokemon is. Okay, now S is too high. Let's put it into A. The problem is that EX Pokemon are gone now as well. So we have no Miraidon, no Zacian. So the tier lists are a bit like maybe difficult to make now without those, because the power level has kind of shifted a tiny bit. Trevenant for me goes into S tier. Absolutely broken Pokemon. Nothing else to say. You can play almost every build and have a lot of success on. Aegislash, people will not like this, but I'm going to put into D tier right here. And Central Area, probably also into D tier. It's just, man, it's a struggle to play Aegislash. I'm sorry. I love Aegislash. I love playing it, but every time I play it after the game, I know why I don't play it anymore. Like, it just takes me one game, but as soon as the game is over, I'm like, yep, this is why I don't play Aegislash anymore. It is sad, and the buffs, of course, didn't really matter, I think, at all. I think it could be good in like pre-mates if you play around it, right? But in solo queue, it doesn't feel all too great. Maybe it's gonna go higher, maybe into C. Maybe it could go into C. I think that's definitely debatable. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it into D for now until I see really people popping off with it. But I haven't seen Aegislash do anything in my games for quite a while. Hooper, I think after the nerfs for Eldegoss, back to being the best support currently in the game. Duraludon. It's one of those physical attacker Pokemon you can play in Path. I think C tier is fair. And for Central Area, I think I'm going to put it into B tier. It's just a very solid, very average physical attacker that always does its job. It does nothing too amazing, but it always is reliable as a carry still. Can take objectives, has good jungle clear. I think you can definitely play it. Good teamfight damage. Just its Unite move being cancelled a bit too easily is definitely annoying, and it's also quite squishy, similar to like Greninja. Azumarill, I think it's just okay right now, I would say, but I think B tier is still fair for this little blue blob, as it just has very strong early game. In Central Area, I don't want to recommend it. But there could be some play rough, like Whirlpool could be quite fun in Central Area, but nothing too amazing. Espeon, probably still A tier, just because, I mean, yeah, Star Power got a bit of a nerf, but doesn't really matter all too much. I think in Central Area dropped though, in value a tiny bit. As late game damage, it does, it lost a good amount still. So I'm going to put into B tier right there. Delphox and Path needs too much experience, but I think C tier is still fair. You can still pick it. And in Central Area, going to put into A tier, as it gets much more experience there. But the only problem with Delphox is it's easily invaded, so you got to be very careful when getting invaded. Glaceon and Path, I think, is a B tier. Doesn't have good last hitting. Still good late game carry, of course, but nothing I want to put too high. While in Central Area, I know emblems are currently bugged right now, which can kind of ruin Glaceon a bit, but I think in Central Area it's the easily S tier Pokemon. I think it's B or Icy Wind, both are great builds that are super annoying. Buzzwole now is interesting. I think Buzzwole has dropped quite a lot. I think you can still crush lanes very hard, but you notice a lot in team fights how much weaker Buzzwole has gotten when it comes to team fighting, I think. And maybe it's still better than I think. Maybe it's still B tier. But I think Buzzwole now dropped quite a lot with that superpower plus nerf. But maybe C is a bit too harsh. Maybe still B. I'm going to put into B just because of its strong laning phase. But it's very difficult to carry late game teamfights now. Be aware of it. late game team fights can be quite hard to close out for Buzzwole. And in central area, I can't recommend it whatsoever. Goes into E. For me, the Trenator in a path for E, for obvious reasons, just takes too long. You need a good lane partner, or you need to know what you're doing. And in central area, I actually think it's quite decent. It just needs a lot of experience and time, so you have to pick it in the right team comps and against the right team comps. But now that we have draft, right, like I also have to kind of think about draft now when I make these tier lists, because most of us will play draft now in the next few weeks. So I think in draft, Tyranitar can be quite good. If you see what your opponents have, it can be a very strong Pokemon. Mew, I think, is currently the best attacker, so I'm going to put into S tier. And for central area, also into... I mean, do I want to put into S? I think Mew is just very strong. It's so frustrating to play against. I mean, to me, Mew is the best attacker right now. Especially with Miraidon gone and Inteleon nerfed a while ago. Mew is definitely, to me, the best, and I think that deserves to be S tier, right, if it's the best. Dodrio, easily, I'm gonna put into A. I think A is fair for Dodrio here. And for central area, I think I'm going to put into S tier. Very strong Pokemon. I have been playing top and bot path a lot with it lately, with a lot of success. But central area, of course, is a different level as you get so much more experience. And also your level 5 ganks are quite strong. Scizor. Actually, I think Scizor deserves a B tier now when it comes to top and bot path. I think it has improved by quite a lot. Of course, again, in draft, don't first pick Scizor. Pick Scizor when it makes sense, and suddenly Scizor actually becomes quite a strong Pokemon. And in central area, I'm also going to put it higher now. Usually I had Scizor jungle here, but I think Scizor in central area now is actually not too bad. I think it's actually quite decent in central area. So yeah, I'm going to put it higher there as well. Just a tiny bit. Again, the Pokemon are not ordered by strength. I'm ordering them by attacker, all-rounder, speedster, defender, support, just for a bit of visually, clarity or something. They're not ordered by their strength when it comes to how they are ordered in these. And then we have Clefable. Clefable has dropped quite a lot, but I think B tier is still fair, just because Gravity can still be a very good counter pick in a draft. So I'm going to pick it into there. Zoroark for top and bot path, probably still A. And then for central area, I'm going to actually put into S tier. Zoroark Comfey is just something you have to be aware about. And a good Zoroark Comfey will be absolute pain to be up against and makes... Of course, it kind of relies on Comfey, but Comfey Zoroark is such a strong combo that I have to put Zoroark also higher, even without Comfey, just for that reason. Sableye, I think, is probably the most unrated Pokemon in the entire game. Or like, people think Sableye is bad for some reason, when this Pokemon is so frustrating and does so many things sometimes. It's just the problem is that there's a lot of bad Sableyes around that make Sableye look bad. But once you play against a good Sableye, you realize how much value you get out of it. Urshifu, Wicked Blow in a top or bot path, I can't recommend. Just, it really doesn't do anything. Gotta be very honest, it doesn't do anything. It has another like Unite move like Charizard or Gengar, where it can kind of come back into the game. But it's just pathetic. For central area, I think B is fair. Don't want to put higher than B. Wicked Blow is still quite fine, and definitely can make things happen. Then we have Dragapult, joins these down here. Never pick this on top or bot path. And for central area, I think it also has dropped quite a lot, back down to C tier in my opinion. If you're a good Dragapult, maybe it's a bit higher, but I don't think really it is all that strong right now at all. So Comfey, not sure if S tier, but maybe Comfey is S tier, but I think A plus is a bit more... I think A makes more sense. Maybe I would probably put, if I said an A plus, I would probably put it into A plus. But yeah, leave it into A. Comfey, very annoying. Then we have, what do we have next? Goodra. Goodra just struggles so hard. But is it necessarily unplayable? No, definitely not unplayable. Joins the other like weird defenders, I would say. I just realize my cursor is sometimes a bit wrong. Like, you're not even sure. I think it doesn't really quite show sometimes on the right cursor. So yeah, that could be a bit weird. Up next we have Lapras, which I'm gonna put into... I mean, Lapras is such a weird Pokemon. I still think it's quite strong and has very high impact, but definitely just has fallen out of the meta. So I think it's not unplayable. Is it meta either? No, not really. So I think C tier is quite fair. Then we have a Chandelure. From the Chandelier, I'm going to put into B. I think that's fair. In central area, I think the same, maybe even A actually. I think Chandelure in central area is actually pretty good. Can recommend. I might just shuffle some of these around, some of these picks, but I think it looks fine to me. Maybe Charizard actually goes down into B. Yeah, no, maybe Charizard goes down into B. What else do we have here? I think Delphox probably also down into B actually. Cramorant, I think Sylveon I like. Venusaur, I think Venusaur into A might be. I think it's just because of FALINKS, I'm going to leave it into A, honestly. Next up, we have Umbreon, still back into S tier. It got some buffs that it didn't need for some reason, so I have to put into S tier. I don't want to, but I have to. Leafeon into S tier as one of the best speeds in the game right now. Same for Centraria. You can see speeds are pretty good right now, I would say still. So definitely can recommend here you try and practice those. Inteleon, down from S into A still, but probably the second best attacker, most likely still. And then Centraria, Centraria I think, yeah, maybe, it's still fine, Centraria too, also into A. Don't want to put much higher than that though. Blaziken and Path, definitely for me, I think deserves a rank. And in Centraria, you might be surprised, but I'm going to put Blaziken into S tier for Centraria, just because you get level 8 so early on. Yes, you might not get stacks, but you can also play a build that doesn't rely on attack weight or cookie. You can play like Resonant Guard, Weakness Policy, and Razor Claw or Muscle Band, or even skip Resonant Guard for just Muscle, Razor, and Weakness. You can even still put attack weight in, right? You can do attack weight, Weakness, and whatever third item you want. Muscle, Razor, Resonant Guard, all good items. And I think you can definitely play it in Centraria, and it's very, very strong. As you get to your level, it's very, very fast, and good objective secure. You can pretty much take down objectives on your own all the time. Then we have Mimikyu for Path. I absolutely hate Mimikyu and Path. I think it's very, very pathetic early on, and I think it needs too much experience for it to become useful. I barely ever see anyone perform well on this. It is fine if you have a XP share defender or support. So let's say you have an XP share Snorlax with you, XP share Wigglytuff, XP share, I don't know, maybe Blissey, Mr. Mime, right? Or Hooper or something, or Umbreon, Blastoise. I think then you can definitely pick Mimikyu and Path. So I may be okay. I'm going to put him to C. I think C is fine. And for Centraria, yeah, I think S tier. Mimikyu is annoying to play against. Definitely a bit overrated, but in solo queue, it's absolutely amazing, of course. Yeah, Urshifu, the other Urshifu also joins the other Urshifu down here. And in Centraria, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. I really don't think. I'm going to put into C tier. Might be higher than anyone else would ever put this. But I've played some Surging Strikes, and I think it's actually not as bad as people think it is. I think it actually... I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. Which I made as well. I also thought it was like the absolute worst now. But after playing it a few times, I definitely think it's not all too bad. Scyther and Path. I think you just have to be too skilled on Scyther. Like it's just a Pokemon that takes too much, but I think C tier is quite fine. And in Centraria, I hate Scyther, but there's some good Scyther out there. I think A tier for this one. If you're good at it, definitely if you're bad at Scyther, it already goes down here, right? Like you have to be very good at Scyther. But good Scyther players make this Pokemon look very, very good. Whiskerada, I'm going to drop from S into A tier. Same in Centraria. I think that is just fair. I mean, does it really matter though? I mean, I think for maybe Centraria is also still S tier, honestly. Yeah, Centraria S tier, and Path I would put into A though, just because it takes a bit more experience than other speedsters, or like, you know, like Leafeon or something. Next up we have Metagross, which I think probably solid B. Also good into FALINKS. Again, some of these like Lucario, Serena, Metagross are very good into FALINKS, as they can hit them multiple times. You get 6 times the shield from Gyro Ball, Stompede 6 times, E-Speed can do it 6 times. You know, on it, Bullet Punch as well, like all these things here more. So very good into FALINKS as a counter. And for Centraria, also B tier. I think Centraria Metagross is actually quite solid. Then we have a Gyarados right here. I'm gonna put Gyarados into S tier. Gyarados deserves S tier now. Very, very strong Pokemon. And for Centraria, of course, though, we don't want to pick Gyarados at all. I actually didn't see that this tier list doesn't have FALINKS in it, so I'm just gonna have them 2 up right here. FALINKS, I think definitely stay, even though it's countered quite hard, you have to be careful. I think this Pokemon is overpowered. I'm gonna put into S tier right here, and also into S tier in Centraria. This might be a bit too much. We'll see how it evolves for the next few weeks. But man, FALINKS, it does so much damage. I think the biggest issue, of course, has that it's draft, and you don't want to first pick it. But if the enemies don't have anything against it, this does so much. Like Mega Horn and No Retreat is absolutely crazy together. So I think I have to put into S tier. I had way too many good games, way too many high damage games. But I think it might also just be that people don't know what it does yet. So it might drop into A or B tier over the next few weeks. But I think in this week, at least right now, it's definitely S tier. Hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. Let me know in the comments if you would change a few things and what you agree and disagree with. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!